All right, so to start off our React Anderson segment for the night, we are going to be covering Waldo's video, which is the first time we're watching this creator, covering why TCM is dying and the fact that it is. So now more than ever, especially when it's a brand new person that we've never watched before, make sure you hit that link that just showed up in the Twitch chat above my head. If you are in the YouTube watching in the future, you should be hitting that in the description down below. I used to play TCM. You didn't know that? There's like a couple videos on the YouTube channel. I used to play TCM every Tuesday. We called it Texas Tuesdays. The reason I quit playing TCM is because I want to play Killer the most. Killer is like my favorite thing about like ASINs is because, you know, any game where you really get to play the antagonist is atypical. So I always find that really like alluring. And the family role in this game is just like completely frustrating, especially if you're solo queuing, because like there's just a lot of stuff that, you know, people don't listen to your comms, and suddenly you lose a match and it's not even your fault. It kind of has like the same problems with solo queue in DBD on the survivor end, because you end up losing for things that you didn't do wrong, and it just kind of feels bad. Even in comms, like with like a group of friends, you'll end up in situations like the slaughterhouse situation where like the valve is downstairs and somebody has to sit and guard it, so now there's just like somebody off the map that can no longer pressure the map. And there's just a lot of other frustrating things and reasons why I quit TCM. I think a good example is like they were finally fixing the gas station, the secret fit the gas station exit that was super easy, and the game's been out for like 6 months. It's been out for like 6 months. If their deal is like, we want to compete with DBD, we want to compete with Dead by Daylight, you cannot. Like, they knew about the issue from like the moment the gas station released. They knew that was an issue and didn't fix it for like 6 whole months. And it's just like, I don't know. I think the thing that bothered me, because like DBD does that too, where there'll be like an issue and it doesn't get resolved for months and months. It was like everybody talked about it on the forums, everybody talked about it on streams, and like they didn't add it to like the known issues list until like recently. You know, like there will be festering issues in this game, and it won't get added to like their known issues list or something to do about it for like months and months. And I think a lot of things rub me the wrong way about TCM, both in the game and out of the game. Obviously, there was that controversy, but like a while back, you saw that a lot of the people like running TCM, getting in the Reddit forums and being very snide and condescending. That rubbed me the wrong way. Obviously, the DLC cost thing, when characters are not guaranteed to be played, because only one character can be played at any given point. Characters have less value than they do in Dead by Daylight, because you can't run a 4 meg, we can run a 4 meg team if we wanted to in DBD. Can't do that in TCM. You can't run like a 4 and a team. So if you're gonna introduce a new DLC character, you're probably not gonna have access to them every single match. So that inherently has less value as a result. But the DLC costs more, which is silly. And there was that whole thing. I don't know. There was just a lot of stuff that I think piled up for me over time that I was just like, I don't want to play this game. I'm done. I just kept logging in, having mostly okay games, and then having a lot of really bad experiences that were really frustrating and boring. And obviously there was also that situation, or not a situation, but also like kind of like the perspective from the dev team that like, this is a party game first and foremost. So as a result, we're not going to adjust things that are fun at other people's expense, like the infinite stab loops and stuff like that. Like, we're not going to adjust things that are frustrating at like fun at other people's expense, because we want to preserve the fun and keep it a party game. Meanwhile, I'm like miserable, right? And I'm not having fun. So it's like, I was not a huge fan. But yeah, that's why I quit TCM. So we'll see if there's some of that overlaps with what Waldo has to say.
They're going to be adding sort of like an in-game currency. If this is anything like Dead by Daylight, I kind of see the angle they're going toward. And if you guys know me, I have not been afraid of releasing my concerns of this game. It's died on me quite a bit. Let's discuss the rise and fall of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Because I know I still love you.
Some of you might think it's way too early for this. If you do think that way, please hear me out. Now, I've really enjoyed posting videos and spending long hours to bringing my content to life in this game. I have waited weeks and weeks to make a video like this because
no playable people.
Not really knowing where to start.
Terrible game.
I feel like I have to go back to where I think this game has gone downhill and discuss my concerns of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I have chosen to break this down in segments than just going on a typical rant like I usually do. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the freshest asymmetrical horror game on everyone's mind when it had released in August of this year. And if you're an asymmetrical horror fan, this is everything you could have wanted in a game that other games did not typically have. It has multiple killers, it has funny counterplay, it has strategy, cool perks and attribute points to level up characters, even a really cool addition when they added Grandpa. When the game was in its early stages, it was so broken. Coming from Dead by Daylight, everything is broken in that game. Regardless, it's what we enjoy because there is no game quite like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Door slams were insanely broken for victims, Sissy was heavily bugged. For both sides, it was really easy to learn and enjoy.
And that was another thing. Like, Sissy had been knowingly bugged for months and it never appeared on their known issues. Like, did they just not play their own game? Did they not watch streams? Like it's almost like it really gave me the vibe that they just didn't give a shit. If I'm being honest, if I'm being frank with you, it really gave me the vibe that they didn't care. And that's not a good look. That is not a good vibe. It's like, there's no way their game releases and there's not at least one social media guy, like, looking around and seeing how people are perceiving and receiving the game. And that goes, oh, okay, well, they have a problem with this. Like, there's no way that goes under the radar for that long. Somebody saw that and like, somebody had to have seen that, and somebody had to have chosen to not care about it. Somebody had to. And I just kept seeing that, like, over and over, patch to patch. Like, the changes were so minor. And in their fairness, later when I finally started, like, kind of like, you know, unfortunately when I was already starting to clock out and leave the game, I started seeing a lot of the stuff that had been issues for a long time. Like, one of the last patches I played was when Sissy was finally fixed. And then they're like, okay, well, we're finally going to look at the 5th gas station. We're finally going to do this. And it's like, brother, it's been like almost 6 months. Like, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. I spent months of you looking at it and going, oh, that's fine. And then keep going, right? Like, stupid, dude. It's just like, I don't know how else you take that, then you don't care. So I will not care. If your vibe is I don't care, then I don't. I don't, right?
You can still argue they're still in their early stages with massive success in their own regard. It is hard to disregard them coming back to full popularity the asymmetrical horror game once had since its release. And in its own right, it did pretty well. It still felt like something was missing and the developers dropped week after.
I will say, to their credit, I feel like this is the most promising ASIM that we've ever had. That isn't Dead by Daylight. Outside of Dead by Daylight, I feel this was the most promising ASIM that we have had. But just like with most things in life, poor management causes a lot of issues.
Week after week, following the next couple of months trying to combat that, which is never typically a bad thing. They added fixes and solutions that otherwise hurt or affected the game, most if not all being extremely positive if not necessary, and it was fine. The game was in great condition. I was already clocking in hundreds of hours at that point, and tons of gamers and YouTubers also were. Which brings me to my first issue of this video and where everything started to go downhill. Hacking and cheating became a huge issue across all platforms. Due to that, TCM decided it would be better.
I remember that. It said it like they shut down crossplay, so all the PC players were forced to play with each other, and a lot of PC players were stuck because that's where the hacking was taking place. So we just were forced to suffer for a long time while the console players were protected, which I did not appreciate. Not to mention that PC players are often more sweaty than console players. So not only were my matches sweatier, but I was running into hackers all the time. So I was just miserable. I was just miserable for a little bit. So funny.
Best to remove the crossplay platform where they handled this issue. Weeks go by, the game started to feel a little bit sour in players' mouth as we weren't able to play online with friends, and most of the multiplayer issues stem from lobby dodging, broken invite codes, constant game crashes, the list goes on. And for a lot of players, it started to feel old because longevity became a problem. Players who put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game, they reached the top level 99, and what was next? And I bring this to you because because to this date, as I'm recording December 22nd, has there ever been any kind of incentive to leveling up in this game besides outfits? If you've been following my channel for a bit, you know I've discussed this in several videos. Something we did see coming for the future of this game was that what will happen longevity wise? Why does the casual player have the same access to someone who has put hundreds of hours into this game? The math didn't add up. The developers looked to combat some of these issues, listening to the players on Reddit, their take on the game, and how players are having constant issues to what was discussed before. Their resolution was to drop the biggest update ever released for them, following 250 fixes that included Valve counterplay, fixes to certain maps, family members included fixes. There was so much content, and not only that was expected, but there was new content that was coming alongside it that included a new map, a new family member, and a new victim that dropped on the same day of this huge update. Again, all great things, so what's the problem? Lobby dodging, as they call it. No longer.
Well, it's funny because like I was already out by this point. I was already out. Like I'd already clocked out. I'm like, that's great, but like I have already lost interest. I've already lost interest. You waited too long, you know? It's like real life, man. Like you only give people so many chances before like you're just like, I don't think you care. And then you even if they get their shit together, like you missed the bus. You have missed the bus, brother. I have moved on. I got other shit going on. Like I do not care what's going on with you. I hope everything goes well. But like I'm doing my own thing. You missed the bus.
Longevity, the popularity never returned from its original release. And that's crazy considering there was a whole new update release that changed everything. So if we're being honest with ourselves, it isn't just lobby dodging. There's tons of things players have been asking for. I released my thoughts on the release patch notes, the new characters, and then I realized something. This new family member Nancy replaces every member on the family side. I mean, we're talking better blood harvesting than Sissy, a spy ability that annihilates Cook's base kit, more amount of damage than Leatherface.
I'm not.
And Leatherface was the representation of this
I loved Bubba. That's one thing. That if Bubba was not as fun to play as he was, I would not have stayed with this game as long. I loved being concerned noises, angry noises. I loved being a big old tank. The problem is Bubba can't find people. So if your teammates were bad and stupid, you couldn't play the game really. If you didn't have trackers that were good or commutative, well, often not both, often not either of these things, you just suffered. It sucked. Because he is so fun. I love being a big giant freight train coming at you a million miles an hour and just putting you down. It's hilarious. It's like what kept me with the game for so long. Bubba was so hilariously fun. But they never fixed the issues with lack of communication. There are communication options, but you know, like DBD's like HUD system, there's no way to communicate efficiently if your teammates choose to not use comms. So
what did TCM do? They took out the need for Leatherface. Players didn't have to start a game with him. They used it in a way to avoid lobby dodging because they knew players didn't want to play as him. This threw off the dynamic of playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
By TCM for asymmetrical. Like 4 or 5 months? It was like last month. Like last month and a half is when I quit. There was just like a Tuesday. There was just like a Tuesday where I went to load up TCM and I just didn't. Like I went to load up TCM and I just looked at the icon and I clicked DVD instead. And I just started stream, didn't say anything. And we just rolled with it.
A horror game, and that's the concern I have for you. Now we can talk about Danny, who is a literal nightmare for the family. In those 250 fixes we talked about before, having Fusebox counterplay, Valve counterplay, they added a character that can permanently disrupt generators, fuse boxes, and valves in his base kit ability, and destroy the point of making this update. Now the rest of us players are confused. Like sure, this game is fun, it always will be, but now it's not a question. Texas Chainsaw Massacre will always be popular. It will always be a great asymmetrical horror, but it's hard to dismiss they have reached their pinnacle of massive popularity. Guys, what will the developers do?
Yeah, it's past its prime already.
Bringing is not a savior. As of right now, I know they're looking for recommendations. So
battle passes work in games that are already successful and are moving full steam ahead, because you have a stable player base that is there to buy and indulge in the stuff. Whereas this game, people are leaving in droves, so you need to bring people back. Not, hey, like somebody said earlier, hey, if you pay more money, it'll be fine, right? Like, no, you need to incentivize me to play your game at all.
Saw fit is release a video behind this, and if you haven't been following my channel for a while, this is the original content I like to release. I like to make videos nobody else is originally making and put my own little twist on it. So stay tuned for that. I have a lot of great videos coming. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do let me know, but hitting that subscribe button takes you 0.2 seconds, and it means so much to me, growing my channel and spreading my content across the platform. Before I end this video, I want to thank you guys truly for blowing out my most recent TCM video. I really do enjoy making original content for you guys, and hopefully we'll have a follow-up to that one coming soon. And that is all the info I have to share with you guys today. At least my boy Johnny getting a buff and his original melee lunge is back. Y'all,
yeah, Johnny, woo! I loved him too. He was my secondary.
Video, please do let me know.
No, he was really weak.
And cooking up these videos for you guys. Let me know how you guys are feeling about this in-game currency method and how TCM goes from here.
I loved Johnny's line where you go, nobody escapes me, and he was the weakest character in the game, so everybody was escaping you. Everybody was leaving. You see, no blood player now. It's not required anymore. Yeah, it's kind of just a shame, honestly. I think, I don't know. It's just like, what is there to say? It always sucks when an ASIM falls apart, because you always want something else to play, and you want the ASIM genre to grow. You don't want it to be DBD only forever. Even if you love DBD, like, it's a cool game style. ASIMs are cool. They're fun. So I want more, right? And like, just like in real life, you know, having multiple of a similar kind of like business right next to each other creates competition, and we win from competition because they're trying to impress us. So we as the consumers essentially lose here if one just dies. And I think that's, you know, I think that was TCM's problem. TCM chose not to innovate and chose not to adapt and compete. They said what we did was different enough, and once people started, like, you know, complaining and trying to offer advice to change, trying to improve, like give suggestions to improve, they said, no, the fact that we made a different game is enough. The fact that we made a different game is enough. We don't have to innovate on our formula. We don't have to push the envelope. We made a fun party game, and that in it on its own is enough to make it float, and we are not going to change things, at least not majorly. And I think that mentality, especially for as long as they had it, really did just kind of like I could feel that the game was going nowhere. Essentially, I could feel that the game was going nowhere because there was no ambition, no fucking ambition whatsoever. It was going to follow the same song and dance of like, okay, now we're going to put out a character and it's going to be expensive, and now here's going to be expensive skins, and now here, like, it's like, it was going to do the same song and dance. The reason that Dead by Daylight is able to be kind of lazy with that, where they just kind of like put out skins, put out a rift, and do like these half chapter things, is because they've already established themselves. They've already innovated. They've already done their thing. Especially in the latter half of this game's life cycle, like DBD is, it's just kind of coasting because, like, you know, most of the things they could do, they have done, right? Like, it's not like the old days where it's like, that I wasn't around for, by the way. This is purely through research. Like, you know, there was a bunch of M1 killers, and suddenly there was just this like crazy woman with hatchets who could hit you from a range, and you're just like, whoa, what? There wasn't something that I was around for. You used to only be able to kill by yourself, and then suddenly Nemesis drops and he has NPCs that follow him around and help you kind of like pressure the survivors. Like, there's not like they've done most of like the quote unquote innovative things that they could do, like push the envelope as Dead by Daylight or as behavior can do. And it really sucked to see TCM like only like a few months into the life cycle already go, that's it. That's all we got. We're not innovating. We're just that's all. We're good. Like, that's disheartening. That's disheartening. Because DBD did that over the course of years. DBD came out in 2016. Like, Nemesis came out in 2021. Yeah. So they were still making brand new killer concepts that were fairly unique in like 5 years deep into their life cycle. And TCM just clearly did not have that same ambition to innovate. So I don't know. You're going to play Killer Clowns? No. Honestly, I'm going to say this, unless it's like a super duper, like well reviewed, every streamer is playing it sort of ASIM, I'm probably not getting any more ASIMs. Because this is the same song and dance. Is like this is what, like a lot of this, you know, overlaps with like what happened with VHS, is where game drops, people like the new formula, and then the devs try to just kind of like coast on the new formula and not really innovate it at all. And then they already start like doing like weird stuff, like, you know, that they should be doing like year 5 of the game's life cycle, and like they're not even a year in, they're like 4 months in. And then if you try to question them on that, they've got a legion of diehard fans. They're just going to whine and blame you instead of just actually like taking the suggestions and innovating. I think it's kind of sad. And this is, you know, this is a thing in like not just this situation, but just like life in general. A lot of things just kind of like suffer from stubbornness, right? And I think stubbornness is like, especially with TCM, is like the main thing that affected it. Stubbornness to change, stubbornness to innovate. They were just too stubborn to keep their own game alive. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Not my problem anymore. I don't play it.